Hey everybody, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher. I'm Lauren. In this video, we've got a 3-piece set from Pier 1 that I am so excited to give a little makeover. It's kind of got some non-conventional parts, so I'm excited to incorporate that into my design ideas for this set of furniture, and hopefully we can give it a new life and it can go on its merry way to its new home. Let's get started. So I got this set, of course, from Facebook Marketplace, and I did pay, if I remember right, it was like $300, but I figured, well, in the listing it did say Pottery Barn, but it ended up being Pier 1, which I still feel like is a little bit of a higher end furniture store. So I don't think it's completely solid wood, but it's got really, really good bones. And it may look like it doesn't need work, but I'm gonna show you that it really does. There's a lot of some missing, there must have been some type of spill on the top of this or something. And so it does need love in order for it to be like functional for its new home. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these down. They are kind of heavy, so. Yeah. First things first, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the hardware, and I'm gonna put it in a separate container so that I can either keep it for another project or donate it, because I am switching out the hardware on this set. Usually my next step after removing the hardware would be to clean, but I am gonna tackle the tops first, and I am gonna be using a stripper on the top. This is the Green Easy stripper, and it is eco-friendly, and it has a lot less harsh chemicals than your typical like super harsh chemical strippers, but it really does work very well. So like I technically don't even need to use gloves or anything like that. I think I will put some glasses on just because like this probably still isn't great if you get it in your eye, but it doesn't need like any ventilation, anything. You could do this inside, which is why I'm kind of choosing to do this method. And I'm just gonna liberally apply it to the tops of this and the 2 nightstands so that we can get a, so that we can just, you know, take off the existing finish, and I'm hoping that it'll kind of look like this. I'm pretty sure that this is a veneer, and so instead of sanding it and potentially busting through the veneer, this will be a great step in getting the finish off, and then I can just go back and lightly sand once I do the actual stripping. So personally, I have used this on multiple types of furniture. I've used it on stained pieces, but I've also used it on painted pieces, and I can say it does do a great job for both paint and stain. So I'll link it down below as well. All right, so that should start working here pretty quickly. I do believe it says 2 to 4 hours. The last time I used it, I was seeing results in like 1 hour. So I'll come back probably in about an hour and test it and just see, is it looking like we can start to remove it? But first I am going to do the tops of the nightstands as well, since I want all 3 pieces to match. It's been an hour, so I'm gonna try this out, see if we can't get some of this finish off. I've got a box that I think I'm gonna just go ahead and like scrape this all into. I think that's gonna be one of the best methods here. So generally you probably wanna use a plastic scraper, but I don't have any. You can use a metal scraper, but you just wanna be careful not to gouge the top of your piece. So just go across the surface nice and evenly. Like so. Definitely working. I feel like this scraper just isn't getting what's all really loose. Maybe I should try a different scraper. Oh yeah. So good. Although I had to wait like a whole hour, I still think this may have been better than sanding the top. I still will have to sand, but it's not gonna take me nearly as long since all of the finish is gonna be pretty much gone. And then the last step for the stripping process with this specific stripper is to use the finishing cleaner that comes on the same time. I think you have to order it separately, but it's all there together on the site. And then you just spray this onto the entire surface that you put your green easy. And then you start taking your steel wool and just kind of getting in there around the edges, and then you want to take like a paper towel and just wipe everything back. All right, I got all of that off. I do think I could have left the nightstands especially a little bit longer, but it all turned out to be okay. That finishing cleaner with the combination of the steel wool really does kind of get into that wood grain and get a lot of the left behind finish out of the wood grain and kind of off of the pieces. So that's kind of what I did. It does still need a sanding on the top just to smooth everything out and make sure we get all the remnants, but I'm gonna pop on the fans for a little bit because they need to dry out before I can sand anything. So probably with the fans about an hour, another hour or so. And it didn't really make too big of a mess. I just have a couple of towels and a few drips and not too bad. So that's one reason why I really don't like stripper, but when I'm just doing the tops, it doesn't make as big of a mess. So I'm gonna start with a 220 grit. Since I got most of that finish off, I really don't need to do anything more than a 220 grit. Usually if I were, sanding off the finish, I would start with a veneer. I'd probably do like a 120, go down to a 180, and then to a 220. But I'm just gonna go straight into the 220 and see what we're working with. The tops of these pieces turned out pretty good, I would say, after the stripping and the sanding. So now I'm gonna move on to the bases of these, and I'm gonna go ahead and scuff sand everything. The surface isn't too glossy, so it should be a pretty quick job. I'm gonna be using the 220 grit, and then for the curves and like around the drawers and stuff, I'm gonna be using my medium low density pro foam here on my Surf Prep sander. So this will kind of contour to those areas and not flatten them out when I'm sanding them. And then after that, we'll wipe back all of the dust and get ready for primer. I'm still pretty sure that I'm gonna stain the tops, but there is like a mark or two that I did not do. It was like that when I sanded it off. And so I'm hoping that it'll still look okay. There's one here and then there's like a little scratch right here. I'm hoping that it's still gonna look okay when I do the stain, or that I can at least try to like mask it a little bit. If not, then I'll probably have to paint the top. We will see. We're gonna cross our fingers and hope for the best. But I'm ready to prime and paint. I just need to go ahead and tape off this top portion of the dresser and the 2 nightstands, as well as like these little inside pieces, because I don't want to get the materials on there. So my method is just a combination of the green frog tape and then the like tape and plastic combo that you see me use pretty much in every single video, whether I'm taping off the tops or the insides of the drawers. I love this stuff. So same thing here. I'm just going to tape it off. Okay, so I've got everything taped off from the tops to the insides of this. I just figured it'd be easier to not get paint on the inside there. I'm still gonna do like the foreground of it because you'll still be able to see that pretty well. And then I taped off the rest of it so the paint spray doesn't get inside of there. And then I am just going to do primer first. And I'm gonna leave the drawers in. I didn't take them out to do the whole plastic around them because they kind of sit inside of the body of the dresser. And then later on what I'll do is I'll pull them out like this, and I'll take a brush and get the edges of each drawer. And I figured, I found that that's an easy way to not go through all of that plastic and stuff. And then it's just another method of how you can do it if you don't want to take all the drawers out. Either way totally works. So I am going to be using the Bin Advanced Primer. This one is a water-based primer that does a lot of the same things, pretty much all of the same things as the Bin shellac-based primer, except that this is water-based, so it's able to go through your sprayer super easily. I have had 0 problems with bleed through with this, and that's like one of the main reasons I like to use the shellac-based. The one and only time that I would still use shellac-based, I mean, I might use it otherwise, but like that I would not use this, is if I have like exposed MDF or exposed particle board that will really soak up the water-based products and kind of expand. If you have that, you definitely want to use an oil-based or shellac-based product because that's going to help seal it all in. So just for future reference, but I've also gotten this tinted to the gray color and I already loaded it up in my Wagner Flexio 5000. So we're ready to prime. All right, the primer is dry, but I did want to do something else before I get to the painting, and that is to replace the glass pieces that were in these top two little pull down doohickey thingies, because I just feel like, at least for myself, I would rather have what's in my nightstand to be not visible. Like a lot of the times in our nightstands, there's just throw in a whole bunch of stuff. And so instead of keeping the glass here, I've got some plywood that I'm gonna cut to size, and I'm gonna add that into here, glue it in, and then it'll basically just look like it's been like that forever instead of previously having these glass pieces. And so all I'm gonna do is take these glass pieces, trace on here. It's just about the same length as this piece of plywood, but I'm just gonna trace it on here. That way I know exactly where to cut with my miter saw I think I'm gonna use, and then I'll be able to insert those into these little frames, if you will. I'm just gonna do one at a time. So we're gonna go cut this one, and then I will come back and cut the trace and cut the next one. While we're waiting for the glue to dry for those frame pieces, I am gonna take my brush and my primer and just go ahead and get the edges of the drawers like I had mentioned when I was gonna leave these drawers in. But this is a super easy fix. I've just got some primer here, and then I've got a small zebra brush, and these are like their newest artist brushes. It's actually the large artist brush, but it's a smaller version of the square brush, and it's perfect for this purpose of the drawer edges and making sure that everything is coated nice and easily. All right, the frames and the inserts that I put in, it's all dry. They are snug in there. So now I'm gonna go ahead and prime the backs of these and then the fronts of these after the back's dry. That way I can go ahead and paint everything all at once. So this will probably have to dry for a bit, so I'll definitely move on to my next step, but Super impressed with how these turned out, and there's not really any gaps. I'll be able to tell officially once the primer dries if I want to add any caulking, like in the seams, but from what I can see, it doesn't look horrible. It'll kind of just be a game time decision once I see that primer dry. So let's get some primer on these guys. All right, I got my Wagner Flexio 5000 nozzle here. Remember that these are super interchangeable, so this is a completely different nozzle than I had with my primer. I actually like to keep my primer and top coat pretty much in the same nozzle all the time, and I just wash this one out when I'm ready to spray a different color. So this time I am going to be using Lily Moon Paints color Black Lace. And it is actually not in their opulent all-in-one line. This is just the paint. It has a matte finish, so I will need to add a top coat, and that is also, of course, why I primed, even though I pretty much prime anyway. And I'm gonna use a strainer like always. We're gonna get this dumped on in here. It's all nice and stirred up already. And to be honest, the Lily Moon paint, typically, I only need to add a tiny bit of water, but in this formula, it's not looking like I'm gonna need to add any water. It's pretty thinned out if I am being honest. So I'm just gonna like test it out before I add any water, and hopefully that will just go through the sprayer really well. Also, since this is the only can that I have, and I'm kind of risking it with 3 pieces, but I am gonna see if I can stretch my paint just a little bit, but this also helps it self-level, even though the paint is very self-leveling on its own. It's gonna basically keep the paint wetter longer in order for it to kind of even out. But this will also help stretch your paint. I've used this on occasion when I'm like, I don't have any more paint. It is Floetrol. So I'm gonna dump that in here. I don't even have a ton left, so that's probably not even gonna do too much for me, but we're going to just try and extend the life of this paint that I have. I'm just trying to use up my paint, and I may have to just like add a different color in with it at the end of the day, because I didn't have very much Floetrol left either. Kind of running low, I need to get some more. Floetrol does not change the color at all of your paint. It may seem like it would make it lighter, but really it doesn't change the look whatsoever. So that is kind of nice. So I was being pretty foolish yesterday thinking that that small can of paint that really wasn't even fully full was gonna coat these 3 pieces fully 2 times, maybe even 3 for full coverage. I just got like 1 coat on, and then I flipped over the drawers that need to be painted on both sides and got those painted, and then I was pretty much out of paint. So didn't quite work, but that was the last of the black that I have like anywhere here in the shop because I've used it all up. So I headed over to Home Depot and I have seen this paint used, especially by Katie at Salvaged by Kay Scott. She has used this quite a bit and said pretty good things about it. It's this Bare Premium Satin Urethane Alkyd Enamel, and I got it toned and tinted into the color Carbon, which is basically just like a really dark black. So this is what the can looks like. And the good thing is that it does not require a top coat now. So I'm going to put this on over the top of my current paint. It's gonna be totally fine. It's all dry, so really it's not that big of a deal that I'm putting a different paint over the top, especially since I primed, everything should be totally fine. And I'll most likely still do 2 coats of this, but a cool thing was this whole 32-ounce can was only like $21, $23, something like that. So pretty cheap overall, and it does have a 4 to 8 hour recoat time. So my goal is to get this first coat on here now, get the fans going, etc., and then go ahead and do another coat 4 hours later after it kind of dries up. And then after that second coat, I'll be able to take the plastic off and do the stain on the tops. So this project is, becoming a little bit more than I was anticipating, but hey, that's kind of how it always goes, so I'm not surprised. Although this isn't a gallon, these paint cans can be a little bit tricky to like pour out of. So I always like to just put a little bit of tape to kind of make my own spout, or you could also buy the spouts that go on these things. I just think that this is super easy and it allows me to get a nice pour. I'm hoping that I went with a good color. Like I said, it's black, but you never truly know until it's on your piece and it's dry, because this has some gray and blue undertones when it's wet. So I'm a little nervous now, but the swatch looked black to me. So I was holding it up to the color black and it honestly looked darker than the black. So I went with it because the name was cooler than just black. If you like it, the name is called Carbon. Also, I haven't talked about this in a while, but this is my Ryobi Speed Bench. And this is a super cool contraption because it doubles as a dolly and then it folds out into a bench. And I find myself using this on every single project, whether I'm like wrapping drawers or filling paint. It's kind of like a mobile workstation. My other table is over there and it works great as well, but this is like just so versatile and like stands up, folds up, wheels around, super easy. I'll link it down below. And again, I'm using the same exact finishing nozzle that I used with the black lace, but I just washed it out and put this paint in there instead. And since it's enamel, it should dry rock hard. So kind of excited to use this. I've been like eyeing it for a while, never really had a reason to use it because I have so much paint here, but this should be fun. I am loving the paint and it's drying black, so that's a plus. Now that I've got this all coated once, I'm gonna go ahead and bring the nightstands in and do the same thing. been long enough. It is time to do the last coat. Technically it's the third coat, but the second coat of the alkyd enamel. And like I said when I first sprayed this one, I love this paint. It's just really, really nice. And the color, I knew because previous experience with blacks that sometimes it can look a little bluish grayish in the can, but once it dries, this is absolutely stunning and I cannot wait to see it all finished. So I'm gonna get going here so that that second coat of this has time to dry as well. And also, like you saw, I did go ahead and do the edges of the drawers, so that way that we could be ahead of the game there for that first coat. I'm just gonna push these back in and we're gonna go spray another coat of paint. That's a wrap on painting. We'll let this dry now, and it does, I believe it needs like, let me check. So like I said, the recoat time was 4 to 8 hours, and then, but it was like dry to the touch in 2 to 4 hours. That's why I kind of waited 4 hours. And then now, I think it said, I mean, like most paints, it cures within 30 days. But I'm sure it'll be fine within about 4 hours. It'll be dry to the touch and we'll be able to like add on the hardware, but probably before that, I'll be able to take off the plastic and get to staining the tops and worrying about that while the bodies still kind of rest and dry. Everything is dry. It's time to tackle the tops and put everything back together. I am really still loving the way that this paint went on and the way that it dried. Seems pretty rock hard, which I am very pleased with. So first I need to take these plastic pieces off of the tops here so that we can get them stained. And I don't remember if I had told you guys, but when I tape off the tops, especially lately, I have been also taping off the backs as well, and I feel like that just gives a little bit more of a sophisticated look and just that little extra attention to detail on my furniture pieces. That way I can really get that top dollar. So if you're looking to just add in a small detail, that could be potentially just like not getting any paint on that backer board. All right, now comes the fun part, or not so fun part. It's kind of my hardest part, is choosing the stain color that I really truly am picturing in my head. So what I have done is I took all of my, well, not all, but 5 stains that I frequently use and that I have here on hand. They're all the water-based gel stains. Some of them are from Dixie Belle, some of them are from Lily Moon, and I went ahead and put them and actually applied them to a piece of board. That way I can really see what they could potentially look like on the tops of pieces. And this will be perfect for the rest of, you know, as long as I have these colors on stock, and I'll be able to reuse this. I don't know why I didn't do this before. There are color swatches that I have, but this is just a lot bigger and easier to have them all together. But what I was kind of going for was a little bit of a darker look, but also not too dark to where it like I would still want the black to be the darkest. I don't know what I'm exactly looking for, but here is my little guide, and all 5 colors are quite different. I think the Saddle Up is out because I don't want it to be so gray. The Tobacco Road is like too brown, and same with the Mudslide. These two are pretty similar. The Tennessee Whiskey, I like it, and I do lean that way a lot, but I don't think I'm gonna lean that way this time because I don't really want it to be too reddish. So that leaves me with the Old Fashioned and the Barnwood, and I do think that I want a little bit less of a ashy. So I'm gonna go with the Old Fashioned, and I think that with the black with the hardware that I have chosen is going to be a really classic look. I really want these to look as high-end as possible, and I think that is going to be the key. So let's go ahead and stain the tops with the old-fashioned gel stain. So what you'll need if you're gonna also use this gel stain is the actual gel stain itself, and like I said, we're going with the old-fashioned. This is from the Lily Moon paint, and I will link that down below with my discount code, along with a water mister bottle. And I like to do this because I like to wet the wood so it all really goes on evenly. It's kind of like a pre-stain for water-based products. You just use water. And then the blue sponge that I like to attach or apply it with. You could also grab some rags. I think I'll be okay without rags, but if not, I've got them right over there as well. Make sure this is nice and shook up, and then just apply it. You can either apply it to your sponge or to your surface. It doesn't really matter all that much. And then just begin to evenly apply it. And then if you're finding that it's not quite deep enough, dark enough for you, you can either add a different color or the same color on top, and it'll help deepen that color. But you wanna wait and let that first coat really dry on there nicely before you do the second coat. I decided to keep this guy in here since I still want a top coat and I don't have it on rollers. I don't wanna like put it on rollers, move it out, maybe I'm lazy, but work smarter, not harder, right? Let's get the plastic off. Okay, last but not least here, at least in the spray booth, I am going to do a top coat on the tops here. Like I said, the bottoms and the bases, the drawers have the top coat built in because it's that rock hard enamel paint. And technically this top coat has a top, or this stain has a top coat as well, but it is matte and this is gonna be a higher traffic area. So I just want it to be a nice satin finish and just be really, really protected. So I've got my spray gun with a Varathane satin poly, water-based, and I'm just gonna spray that a few times. I went ahead and got these like fold out drawer panels all installed on all three pieces. So after the top coat dries, after I do a few of them, we'll be able to go ahead and install the hardware. It is time to add the finishing touches, which is the hardware, onto these pieces. And I have decided to just go with the classic antique brass knobs. So this is them. That's gonna be the hardware that I put on them. I think it is just really going to pop well on the black, but also not deter too much from the beauty of the black, because I do think that these pieces are, of course, some of my favorites that I have done, especially here in the recent past. I am just really pleased with how they turned out. So let's get this hardware on here. All right, that is a wrap on these 3 pieces of furniture. The set turned out amazingly. Let's check out what it looked like before. And I can't believe that this is the same set. Although it has a lot of the same features, I just changed it just enough to, I think, bring it a little bit more into like a timeless era. These are going to be perfect for many, many years to come, as long as the owners want to keep them. So I'm really, really excited with how these turned out, and they could honestly fit into any home. Like, doesn't really matter your decor. It has a little bit of the French provincial style on the legs, but other than that, it's pretty classic lines, and I just think that the next owners are going to absolutely love it, just like I do. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments, but really quick, let's go over some numbers. So for the numbers on this piece, we're kind of at like maybe the top dollar that I would prefer for a 3-piece set. I've kind of been hit and miss with 3-piece sets, honestly, lately. Like, I feel like if I had a tall boy, I could definitely sell it very quickly. Now, I haven't tried a 3-piece set that looks like that. I've sold a blue set, and then I'm still working on selling that green set that you saw a couple of weeks ago, at least at the filming of this video. So the price for the whole set, like I said at the beginning, was $300, which that's a little bit of a higher buy-in. So I really tried to keep my paint costs low and all of the rest of the materials. So between primer, which was $10, stripper, $10, paint, I had to spend a little bit more because I was being super foolish and thought that I could get so much surface area covered fully with 1 pint of paint, and that just wasn't the case. So I probably spent around $40 in paint, because that one can that I got at Home Depot later, the urethane alkyd enamel in satin, was only like $23, $24 with tax. So the two combined right around $40 because I didn't use the full can. So then stain was $10, top coat, barely used any because I only use it on the top, so that's like $5 worth. And then the brand new hardware, I got it on sale on Amazon for $35, bringing us to a grand total of $410. So again, not a horrible buy-in, but it's definitely going to I'm going to want to list it a little bit high-ish, maybe. It just really depends on, prices are very subjective in my opinion. But I'm thinking of listing it around, I know it's a big range, but like $1,200 to $1,400. And just see, because it is black, like I said, I feel like this is going to be a lot more desirable than the green set that I have listed. I have it listed at $1,450. It's a little bit of a bigger set. So I thought maybe it would go, but it's been sitting for a couple of weeks. So I think I have time to, decide if I want to lower this eventually, but I think I'm gonna try right around that $1,450 I'm gonna go tell you $1,200 to $1,450, and then typically it's a pretty much game time decision on like how much I want to list it for. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't yet, definitely check out the Bare urethane alkyd enamel in the color satin, or in the satin sheen. This is carbon, but really I'm thinking that any color would be amazing in this paint. And honestly, that can't really go wrong, because you can literally go there and choose any color that you could dream of with their paint swatches. So not sponsored, but definitely check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next week, and I'll see you on the flip side. I am so pleased to say that in just under 24 hours, this 3-piece set has sold for full asking price from Facebook Marketplace. I had quite a bit of interest. Most of the people that were interested, though, were wanting me to go down in price, and since I had literally just listed it, I don't like to go down in price after at least a week. But this person came, checked it out, and is going to be picking it up here in the next couple of days. I am gonna get this wrapped so that I can get it off of my staging wall, because I've got another piece of furniture that's coming over here, and I am just so thrilled. I kind of had a feeling that this set would sell quite quickly. I just wasn't sure on the pricing, but I ended up listing it at $1,350, and that was the sweet spot for that lady because they're moving and she needed some new furniture, and this was absolutely perfect size, perfect color combo, everything. So let's wrap it up and get it out of here.